The Internet. We believe we understand it. It is the landscape of our modern lives, a digital continent upon which we build our homes, our careers, our very identities. We see it as a tool, a utility, a sprawling, infinite library where the sum of human knowledge is, in theory, available at the command of our fingertips. But this perception, this comforting familiarity, is an illusion. It is a map of only the coastal cities and the major highways. The Internet is not a library. It is an ocean. We spend our lives splashing in the sunlit shallows, our activities logged, tracked, and understood. But beneath this surface lies the twilight zone, where the light begins to fail and strange forms move in the periphery. And deeper still, far beyond the reach of search engines and social media feeds, is the abyssal plain, a place of crushing pressure, absolute darkness, and profound mystery. In these unplumbed depths, secrets are not just kept, they are forged. And every so often, something from that crushing, silent dark decides to send a message to the surface. This is the story of one such message. A story that begins, as so many tales of the strange and the unsettling in the digital age do, in one of the Internet's most chaotic and infamous crucibles. The date is January 4th, 2012. The place is 4chan. For those who have not ventured there, 4chan, and particularly its or random board, is the Internet's ID. It is a digital primordial soup, an anonymous, ephemeral message board where culture is born and dies in the span of minutes. It is a relentless fire hose of memes, horror, pornography, political extremism, and nihilistic absurdity. It is a place fundamentally defined by noise. Anything serious, anything with weight or purpose, is typically shouted down, mocked, and buried under an avalanche of digital detritus within seconds. It is the last place on earth you would look for a signal in the noise. And yet, on that January day, a signal appeared. A new thread, starkly different from its cacophonous surroundings. It was not a joke. It was not a meme. It was clean, serious, and utterly devoid of irony. The post contained a single, simple image, a black background with plain white text, rendered in a sterile, almost monospaced font. The text read, "Hello. We are looking for highly intelligent individuals. To find them, we have devised a test. There is a message hidden in this image. Find it, and it will lead you on the road to finding us. We look forward to meeting the few that will make it all the way through. Good luck." It was signed with a single, cryptic number, 3301. There was no further explanation, no context. In the churning chaos of a post like this should have vanished instantly. To the vast majority of users who saw it, it was just another prank, an attempt at being edgy, or perhaps the beginning of some convoluted marketing stunt. They scrolled past it, uninterested. But for a curious few, for the lurkers, the codebreakers, the programmers, the security analysts, and the hackers who frequented these digital badlands, it was something else entirely. It was an irresistible challenge. It was a perfectly crafted lure, a gauntlet thrown down by an anonymous, unknown, and seemingly sophisticated entity. Those who chose to engage had no idea what they were stepping into. They could not have known they were about to embark on a journey that would span years, cross continents, and pull them into a labyrinth of cryptography, philosophy, literature, and art. They were at the mouth of one of the deepest and most enduring rabbit holes the Internet has ever produced. They were about to begin the hunt for Cicada 3301. This is not merely a story about a complex puzzle. It is a story about a ghost in the machine, an invisible architect building a maze for an unknown purpose. Was it an alternate reality game, an ARG designed purely for intellectual sport? Was it a clandestine recruitment tool for a powerful government intelligence agency like the NSA or GCHQ? desperate for the next generation of cyber warfare specialists? Or was it something far stranger? A modern-day secret society, a philosophical think tank, a collective of crypto-anarchists preparing to release a world-changing technology? For over a decade, this internet mystery has only deepened. The questions have multiplied, while the answers remain locked away, perhaps known only to the very few who made it all the way through. So today, we will follow the trail of digital breadcrumbs. We will descend into that rabbit hole, step by step, puzzle by puzzle, and attempt to piece together the journey, the purpose, and the identity of the organization known only as Cicada 3301. The journey for those first pioneers in 2012 began with the image itself. The instruction was explicit. There is a message hidden in this image. For anyone with even a passing familiarity with digital forensics, this immediately suggested the use of steganography. Steganography is the ancient art of concealed writing, of hiding a message in plain sight within a seemingly innocent carrier. In ancient Greece, a messenger might have his head shaved, a message tattooed on his scalp, and then be sent on his way after his hair grew back. In the digital age, the principle is the same, but the methods are infinitely more sophisticated. A simple text file, an audio clip, or, as in this case, a JPEG image can contain vast amounts of hidden data, completely invisible to the casual observer. The solvers on 4chan downloaded the image and began to dissect it. They didn't just look at it. They looked inside it. Using simple tools like text editors, they opened the image file not as a picture, but as raw code, a cascade of garbled characters representing the image's data. They were sifting through digital sand, looking for a single coherent grain. And they found it. Buried deep within the lines of code that formed the black and white image was a string of plain text. It was a clue. It read, "Tiberius Claudius Caesar says," followed by a string of nonsensical letters. For anyone versed in the history of cryptography, this was a flashing neon signpost. Tiberius Claudius Caesar is a clear reference to the Caesar cipher, one of the oldest, simplest, and most famous forms of encryption in history. Attributed to Julius Caesar, who used it for his military correspondence, it's a substitution cipher where each letter in the original message, the plaintext, is shifted a certain number of places down the alphabet. A shift of 1 would turn it into B, B into C, and so on. The key here was Tiberius Claudius Caesar. Claudius was the 4th Roman emperor. Applying a shift of 4 to the jumbled letters, the solvers watched as the gibberish resolved itself into coherent text. It was a URL, a web address. The first key had turned the first lock, and a new door had opened. The link led not to an answer but to another puzzle. It was an image of a wooden duck, accompanied by text that read, "Whoops, just decoys this way. Looks like you can't guess how to get the message out." This was the first true filter. It was a taunt, a misdirection designed to weed out those with a linear, brute force mindset. Many who reached this page likely gave up, assuming they had been trolled. But the intelligent individual Cicada was searching for would understand the meta-puzzle. The message wasn't in the duck image in the same way as before. The clue was the decoy itself. The very existence of the decoy implied that a more sophisticated method was required. This led them to a more advanced steganographic tool called outguess. Unlike simple text insertion, outguess is designed to hide data in a way that statistically resists detection. It was a step up in technical difficulty. By running the duck image through outguess, the solvers extracted a second hidden message. This one was far more complex. It wasn't a simple sentence. It was a list of book codes, references to a specific set of texts, and a clear instruction that this was the path forward. It was a message that led them to a specific subreddit, a forum on the social media site Reddit, named r/A2E7J6IC78H0J. The subreddit was a strange, disorienting place. It was filled with cryptic posts. Some were in English, some in Welsh. There were images containing strings of numbers. And there were symbols, specifically runic symbols from an ancient alphabet. The central puzzle on this page involved two images, each containing a string of numbers and a reference. The Mabinogion. The Mabinogion is a collection of the earliest prose stories from the literature of Britain, compiled in the 12th and 13th centuries from earlier oral traditions. It is a book of ancient Welsh folklore, of myths, legends, and heroes. The choice of this text was significant. It was another layer of the Cicada persona. They were not just programmers. They were students of mythology, of ancient traditions, of hidden knowledge. The solvers had to take the strings of numbers from the images, apply them as a cipher to the text of the Mabinogion, and painstakingly extract a specific set of letters. This was a laborious, collaborative process, requiring patience and precision. The decoded letters, once assembled, formed a phone number, a United States telephone number with a Texas area code. This was a pivotal moment in the 2012 puzzle. The hunt had been a purely digital affair up to this point, a game of code and screens confined to the ethereal realm of the internet. Now, it demanded a physical, real-world action. Someone had to bridge the gap. Someone had to pick up a telephone and dial a mysterious number discovered through a Welsh myth on a chaotic subreddit. The community waited. When the first person finally made the call, they were not greeted by a human voice. It was a recording, an automated, synthesized voice that delivered the next clue. The voice said, "Very good. You have done well. There are 3 prime numbers associated with the original final.jpg image. 3301 is one of them. You will have to find the other 2. Multiply all 3 of these numbers together and add a .com to find the next step. Good luck. Goodbye." The message was clear. Go back to the very beginning. The original image, the one posted on 4chan. The clue was not in the image this time, but in its properties, its metadata. The 2 missing prime numbers were the image's dimensions, its height and its width in pixels. The solvers located the dimensions, confirmed they were prime numbers, multiplied them together with 3,301 as instructed, and appended .com to the end. They had a new URL. This URL led to a website. The page was stark. It featured a large countdown clock, ticking down the seconds to an unknown event, and beneath it, an image of a cicada. This was the first time the insect, the symbol that gave the organization its name, was explicitly shown. The cicada is a powerful symbol. It spends years underground in its nymph stage, only to emerge for a short, loud, and transformative adult life. It represents resurrection, emergence, and hidden potential. The symbolism was not lost on the community. They watched the clock. When it finally hit 0, the web page refreshed. The countdown was gone. In its place was a list of coordinates. 14 sets of GPS coordinates, pointing to specific physical locations in cities all around the world. Warsaw, Poland. Seoul, South Korea. Paris, France. Sydney, Australia. And multiple locations across the United States, from Miami and New Orleans to Seattle and Los Angeles. The puzzle had just exploded. It had shattered the boundary between the digital and the physical in a globally coordinated event. This was no longer a game a single person could solve from their basement. It required a decentralized, global team. The online forums, which had been hives of collaborative code-breaking, now became command centers. They had to rely on ground agents, other forum users who lived near these specific locations, to physically go to the coordinates and investigate. The suspense was palpable. What would they find? Was this a trap? Was it a joke? Reports started trickling in. Users arrived at the GPS coordinate Street corner in Warsaw, a telephone pole in Granada, Spain, a park in Sydney, and found them. Taped to lampposts and street signs were posters. Each poster featured the now familiar image of the cicada and a QR code. The message, the single thread of this mystery, had traveled from an anonymous post on 4chan, through layers of digital steganography and classical ciphers, through ancient Welsh mythology, to a phone message, to a countdown website, and was now printed on paper and taped to a pole in the physical world. This was a level of planning, resources, and coordination that dwarfed any typical online prank. This was deadly serious. One of the individuals who documented this journey, becoming a de facto public narrator for the hunt, was a Swedish IT security analyst named Joel Eriksson. He, like many others, could only watch and wait anxiously as people on the ground scanned the QR codes. When they did, the codes revealed yet another layer. They led to another text-based clue, this time pointing to a poem from a book called Agrippa, A Book of the Dead, by William Gibson. Gibson is often called the father of cyberpunk, the literary genre that explores the fusion of high-tech and low-life, of advanced technology and societal decay. The choice of Agrippa was particularly brilliant. The book itself, when first released, was a work of art. It was a floppy disk that contained a poem designed to encrypt itself and disappear forever after a single reading. It was a piece of ephemeral, self-destructing art. The theme of hidden, disappearing messages was woven into the very fabric of the puzzle. Decrypting the message hidden within the Agrippa clue led the solvers to the final stage of the 2012 puzzle, a Tor address. For those unfamiliar, Tor, which stands for the Onion Router, is a specialized network that allows for anonymous communication by routing traffic through a worldwide, volunteer overlay network. It is the primary gateway to what many call the deep web or the dark web, a vast portion of the internet not indexed by standard search engines like Google. To access it, you need the Tor browser. This was the final technical gatekeeper. It ensured that only those with a certain level of technical savvy and an understanding of online anonymity could proceed to the final step. When the first solvers successfully navigated to the Tor address, they were met with a message. It stated that Cicada 3301 had found the individuals they were looking for. The puzzle was over. A registration form had been available on the page for a very short period of time, and the first arrivals had claimed all the available spots. For everyone else, including Joel Eriksson, who had come so agonizingly close, it was a dead end. The door had slammed shut. The message board on the Tor site read simply, "We want the best, not the followers." And then, a profound silence descended. The winners, those few individuals who had successfully registered, disappeared from the public forums. They were contacted by Cicada 3301 via private channels and, presumably bound by a new level of secrecy, said nothing about what came next. The rest of the world, the global community that had worked together for weeks, was left to wonder. Who was this mysterious organization? What did they want with these brilliant, hand-picked codebreakers? The forums buzzed with theories for a full year. And then, almost to the day, it happened again. On January 4th, 2013, a new image appeared. Once again, it was posted to 4chan. The same stark black background, the same sterile white text. The message was eerily familiar. Hello again. The search for intelligent individuals now continues. The first clue is hidden in this image. Find it, and it will lead you on the road to finding us. We look forward to meeting the few that will make it all the way through. Good luck. And again, it was signed 3301. The hunt was back on. The community, now larger, more experienced, and more organized after the first event, sprang into action. This time, the steganography within the image was more complex. It led them to a book code, but the book was of a very different nature than the Mabinogion. This time, the reference was to a text by the infamous English occultist, poet, and magician Aleister Crowley. Specifically, the Book of the Law, a text Crowley claimed was dictated to him by a supernatural entity named Aiwass. This choice of source material dramatically shifted the perceived persona of Cicada 3301. This wasn't just about mythology anymore. This was about the occult. It was about esoteric philosophy and Western magic traditions. Crowley's central philosophy was, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law," a maxim often misinterpreted as hedonism, but intended as a call for individuals to discover and follow their own true will. This choice suggested that Cicada was interested in more than just technical skill. They were looking for a certain kind of mind, one open to radical, perhaps even transgressive, ideas about reality and individuality. The decoded message from Crowley's book led them to an audio file, a song that had been uploaded to the music-sharing platform SoundCloud. The track was called The Instar Emergence. The title itself was a continuation of the cicada metaphor. An instar is a developmental stage of an arthropod, like a cicada between molts. An emergence is the final act of breaking free from the old exoskeleton to become an adult. The title was deeply symbolic of growth, of transformation, of becoming something new. The music itself was another puzzle. It was a dark, ambient, glitchy piece, but woven into the fabric of the track were hidden messages. Some listeners noticed what sounded like snippets of lyrics from another song, The Song of the Tufan, by a Turkish artist, which provided another set of cryptic instructions. More technically, when the audio file was analyzed with a spectrography tool that visualizes sound frequencies, it revealed hidden images and text within the sound waves themselves. The puzzle was becoming more multimedia, more intricate. This new puzzle chain led the solvers to a new platform, a Twitter account. The account at 123-15070511321 began posting a series of images. Each image contained a grid of numbers and runes. The runes were from the Anglo-Saxon Futhorc, an ancient alphabet. The puzzle was a complex, multi-layered cipher that required knowledge of ancient languages, numerology, advanced cryptographic techniques like Vigenère ciphers, and the ability to synthesize information from multiple sources at once. The difficulty had been significantly ramped up from the previous year. The 2013 puzzle culminated, once again, with a series of Tor addresses. And once again, the process was a race against time. Only the very first people to solve the entire convoluted chain were granted access. This time, the door seemed to slam shut even faster. The message was clear. Cicada was adapting. They were making the puzzles harder and the window of opportunity smaller. This was not a friendly competition. It was an elite filtering mechanism of ruthless efficiency. The community was left with a mix of exhilaration, frustration, and an even deeper sense of intrigue. The resources, the global coordination, the sheer intellectual depth of the puzzles, and now the esoteric, occultist overtoness, it all pointed to an organization with incredible reach and a very serious, though still completely unknown, purpose. And so the world waited for 2014. On January 4th of that year, the community was on high alert, forums buzzing with anticipation. But the day came and went in silence. Had Cicada given up? Had they found everyone they needed? Was it finally over? But then, 2 days later, on January 6th, a message appeared on the same Twitter account that had been used in the 2013 puzzle. It was a new image, a new puzzle. The game was afoot for a third time. The 2-day delay was itself a meta-puzzle, a test of patience, a deliberate break in the pattern to keep everyone off balance. The 2014 puzzle was different. It was, by all accounts, the most difficult, the most esoteric, and the most philosophically dense of them all. It began not with a simple image of text, but with a piece of art. A collage featuring a work by the 19th century artist and occultist Jean Delville, overlaid with cicada symbols and other cryptic imagery. The clue from this image led the solvers to the centerpiece of the 2014 puzzle, and what has become the most enduring legacy of Cicada 3301. It was a book, a 58-page manuscript of runes. It was titled the Liber Primus, which is Latin for first book. The Liber Primus was written entirely in a runic alphabet that the community had to decrypt from scratch. They painstakingly reverse-engineered the system, which they dubbed Gematria Primus. It was a cipher of breathtaking complexity. It wasn't a simple one-to-one substitution. It was a system where letters had numerical values, where prime numbers were significant, and where the meaning was interwoven with deep philosophical concepts. As pages of the Liber Primus were slowly, painstakingly decrypted by the global community, a picture of Cicada's core ideology finally began to form. This was not just a collection of puzzles. It was a manifesto. The book spoke of concepts like consciousness, the nature of reality, and the importance of intellectual evolution. It was deeply critical of established systems of control. It rejected mainstream religion and dogma, advocating instead for a path of individual discovery and enlightenment. But it was also a political document. It contained powerful statements about privacy, liberty, and the fight against censorship. One translated passage reads, "We are a think tank, not a group of hackers for hire. We are a group of individuals who have come together with a common set of beliefs. We are not a criminal organization. We are not a malware-creating organization. We are not a hacker group. We are an international group. We have no name. We have no symbol. We have no membership lists. We do not have a public website, and we do not advertise ourselves. We are a group of individuals who have proven ourselves, much like you have, by completing this recruitment contest." Another passage warns, "We oppose censorship, tyranny, and oppression in all its forms. We believe that privacy is an inalienable right." And yet, the Liber Primus was also a puzzle in and of itself. Of its 58 pages, the community has only managed to fully decrypt around 19 of them. The rest remain a complete mystery, locked behind further layers of encryption that no one, in all the years since, has been able to crack. Cicada 3301 had left the world with their holy text, their mission statement, and had made the book itself the final impenetrable test. And after the Liber Primus was unleashed upon the world, silence, a profound and lasting silence. 2015 came and went with no new puzzle. The community waited. They continued to work on the Liber Primus, but progress was slow, almost non-existent. Then, in January 2016, a new message appeared. But it was not a puzzle. It was a clarification and a warning. It was posted on a site that could verify its authenticity using a PGP signaturia form of cryptographic proof that ensured the message came from the one true Cicada 3301. It read, "Hello. The path lies empty. Epiphany seeks the patient pilgrim. Liber Primus is the way. Its words are the map, their meaning is the road, and their numbers are the direction. Seek and you will be found. We look forward to meeting you. Good luck." It was followed by a stark warning. "Beware false paths. Always verify PGP signature from 7A35090F. This was Cicada telling the world two critical things. First, the hunt wasn't over, but the path forward was no longer a yearly game. The path was the Liber Primus. The answer was in the book. Second, they were aware that their fame had spawned imposters, groups creating fake puzzles and false trails to mislead the community. They were re-establishing control of their own narrative. And since that 2016 message, there has been nothing. No new official puzzles. No further communication. The trail has gone cold, leaving the Liber Primus as the final cryptic monolith of the entire affair. This leaves us with the great, unanswered questions. Who is Cicada 3301? And what was the ultimate point of all this? This is where we must move from the documented facts of the puzzle into the realm of theory and speculation, weighing the evidence for each potential explanation. The first and simplest theory is that this was all just an incredibly elaborate alternate reality game, or ARG. An ARG is an interactive narrative that uses the real world as a platform. On the surface, Cicada fits this description perfectly. It was a game, it used online and real-world elements, and it fostered a massive community. However, there are major, almost fatal problems with this theory. ARGs almost always have a purpose, usually to promote a product, a movie, a video game, a TV show. Cicada has never been linked to any commercial entity. Its decade-long silence is marketing malpractice if that was the goal. Furthermore, ARGs have a payoff, a final reveal where the creators, the puppet masters, step forward and the story concludes. Cicada never did. The curtain was never pulled back. The resources required, especially for the globally distributed physical posters, also seem far beyond the scope of a typical indie ARG. If it was a game with no prize, no ending, and an impossibly large budget. This leads us to the second, and perhaps most popular, theory, that Cicada 3301 is a recruitment tool for a government intelligence or security agency. The NSA in the United States, the GCHQ in Britain, all these organizations are in a constant high-stakes war for talent. They need the world's best cryptographers, security experts, and analysts. What better way to find them than to create a public test so complex that only the absolute elite can solve it? It filters candidates naturally, testing not just for technical skill, but for persistence, creativity, and the ability to work in a decentralized team. This theory is compelling. The skills tested by Cicada are a perfect match for an agency's wish list. The global nature of the puzzle suggests an organization with global reach. However, there are significant holes here, too. Government recruitment, while sometimes unconventional, is usually a discrete process. A public puzzle of this scale is unnecessarily flashy and risks attracting precisely the wrong kind of attention: anarchists, foreign agents, and journalists. More importantly, the overt philosophy of the Liber Primus is fundamentally anti-authoritarian. It speaks of resisting censorship and tyranny. This is not the language of a government agency. Why would a spy organization that thrives on secrecy and state power recruit using a manifesto that seems to preach the opposite? It is a deep, ideological contradiction. A third, more recent theory has emerged, linked to the rise of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. This theory posits that Cicada 3301 was an early project by a group of crypto-anarchists or cypherpunks, looking to recruit talent to build a new, decentralized, and anonymous system. The timeline fits. The first puzzle appeared in 2012, when Bitcoin was still in its infancy and the core ideas of decentralization were known only to a small, dedicated community. The ideology expressed in the Liber Primus focus on privacy, security, and freedom from control aligns perfectly with the core tenets of the early crypto movement. They weren't building a company. They were building a protocol, a new kind of internet, a system for secure communication or anonymous value transfer. Perhaps the winners were brought in to work on a project that would later become, or influence, one of the many privacy-focused technologies we see today. It's a plausible theory, but it lacks direct evidence. There is no clear, provable link between any known crypto project and the specific symbols, ciphers, or individuals associated with Cicada. This leaves us with the fourth and most mysterious possibility, the one that feels closest to the strange, esoteric heart of the puzzle itself. That Cicada 3301 is exactly what it claims to be: a private think tank, a modern-day secret society. Not a government agency or a corporation, but a group of like-minded individuals dedicated to a specific set of ideals: privacy, liberty, and the evolution of human consciousness. In this view, they believe the world is on a dangerous path, increasingly controlled by forces of censorship and surveillance, and they are recruiting an elite group to, in their own words, research and develop techniques to aid the ideas we advocate. Cicada, in this interpretation, is less like the CIA and more like a digital age Knights Templar or a philosophical Freemasonry, using ancient methods of puzzles and initiation to find new members for their order. The Liber Primus isn't just a puzzle. It's their sacred text. The winners weren't hired for a job. They were initiated into a cause. This is, of course, the most romantic and conspiratorial of the theories, but in many ways, it is the only one that can comfortably accommodate all the disparate, bizarre elements of the story. The global scale, the deep financing, the occultist references, the anti-authoritarian philosophy, and the profound, enduring secrecy. So where does that leave us? It leaves us in the dark, staring at a locked door. The very few individuals who claim to have won the 2012 puzzle and were accepted into Cicada's inner circle have shared very little. One anonymous winner claimed in an interview that they were brought into a private forum where they worked with other winners from around the world on various software projects dedicated to the cause of privacy and anonymity. But soon, this person grew disillusioned, feeling that the group was not a decentralized collective as advertised, but was being led by a single, controlling, and perhaps megalomaniacal leader. They eventually left the group. Their story, however, has never been independently verified. It is just another thread in a tapestry of rumor and speculation. The mystery of Cicada 3301 is a perfect reflection of the Internet itself. It's a testament to the power of anonymity and the potential for brilliant, complex systems to emerge, fully formed, from the digital ether. It's a puzzle that remains fundamentally, tantalizingly unsolved. The Liber Primus still sits on servers around the world. Its final, undecrypted pages a silent challenge, a locked door to which no one has found the key. The community still waits, less anxiously now, with a kind of patient reverence, for a sign that the hunt will begin again. This enduring, unsolved Internet mystery serves as a powerful, almost chilling reminder. A reminder that for all we think we know about our connected world, for all the data we generate and consume, there are still vast, uncharted territories. There are still architects building invisible labyrinths in the dark, looking for something or someone. The story of Cicada 3301 is a story of a signal from the deep, a complex, multi-year call to the intelligent, the curious, and the persistent. A call that, for 3 years, captivated a corner of the world, and whose echoes can still be heard by those who know how to listen for the hum beneath the noise. The great and beautiful irony is that an organization obsessed with finding answers has left the world with nothing but better, deeper questions. Who they are, what they ultimately wanted, and whether they will ever emerge again from their long slumber, remains the final, unsolved puzzle. If you found yourself lost in this digital labyrinth, and if the story of Cicada 3301 has sparked your curiosity about the other mysteries lurking in the dark corners of our world, consider subscribing to this channel for more deep dives into the unknown. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the strange and the unexplained. And share your own theories in the comments below. Was Cicada a game, a spy agency, a crypto cult, or a true secret society? The conversation is part of the ongoing hunt. The path lies empty. Epiphany seeks the patient pilgrim. Perhaps the next clue isn't meant for a forum, but for one of you, because in the infinite, churning ocean of the Internet, you never know when the next message from the deep will wash ashore, and who it will be looking for. Maybe it's looking for you.